You know, folks, one of the things that I love most about being human, you know what it is? I get to wake up every morning, so long as my body permits me to do so. So long as the lungs keep on respiring, so long as the heart keeps on beating, and the neurons keep firing. You know, when I get up each day, I get the opportunity to choose the attitude that I want to approach life with. Isn't this just great, folks? It's one of the great things about being human. You can pretty much override all of your genetic codes, wishes and desires. You know the way we all have genes, folks? We all have our own genetics. And you know, the genes, of course, throughout our ancestral past, extremely useful for guiding our behaviour. You know, these are what we're going to call our instincts. You know, your instincts come from your genes, and very important they are. You know, you want, in your ancestral environment, you don't want to be overcomplicating things. It's a very dangerous place to be living out in the wild. You know, you need your instincts to be firing on all cylinders. You don't want to be procrastinating. You don't want to be dithering around, furry like a dipshit. Otherwise, you're going to get your arse munched by the tiger that's stalking you, or the leopard. You know, you can't afford that. So, you know, your genes, throughout most of your evolutionary past, your genes have been guiding your behaviour. And, you know, to a large extent, most humans have been pretty much operating on what I'm going to call, you know, genetic autopilot mode. You wake up, you do the same things every day, you have to find food, pretty much. That is, you know, priority number one. You need to find your calories for the day. You need to make sure you don't get your arse chewed off by a predator. You need to protect the offspring. Okay. And do a bit of the old reproduction there, if you've a bit of surplus energy. And you've ascended the status dominance hierarchy in the tribe sufficiently. Okay, but it's very repetitive, isn't it? You know, it's pretty much being dictated. All of human behaviour throughout human natural history. It's the same with all animals as well. It's the genes. Those genes are just dictating the way every creature is pretty much living its life. But you see, folks, we don't live in the wild anymore. I know you may be looking behind me and thinking, is the Bandido out in the wild? Well, he's not really out in the wild. He's just out in the local park. Lessons in nature. And you know, I don't live in the wild anymore. I live in modern civilization in the year 2026. And you know, I don't really need to worry about hunting for food, foraging for food. I don't need to worry if I've got a roof over my head tonight. I don't really need to worry about the elements. I don't need to worry about getting eaten by a predator. I don't need to worry about my offspring being eaten by a predator. I don't really need to worry about infectious disease anymore. I don't really need to worry, all in all, about the neighbouring tribe coming over the hill, fucking, you know, ransacking my house, stealing my woman and killing me. You know, I don't have to worry about any of that. At all. So this leaves me in a wonderful, wonderful position in life. What is this wonderful position that I find myself in? And you find yourself in this position too. Well, it means that all of the things that our genetic code used to be guiding our behaviour towards, we don't really need the genes to guide us that way anymore, do we? You know, we don't live in life or death circumstances anymore, by and large. If you live in the West, and you don't live in some shithole somewhere in the world, I'm going to assume you don't live in a shithole. You probably live in the West. You've got all of the modern day conveniences of the West, all of the modern day luxuries and comforts. Social media, all your technology, nice central heating in your house. You know, you've got air conditioning if it gets too warm. You're covered on all bases. Nice comfortable bed to sleep in. What more could you ask for? But you know, this brings up a very interesting set of circumstances for the modern day human. Because, you know, In modern day society, I don't really need to allow my genes to run the show anymore. I'm not in life or death circumstances. I don't need the genes to wrestle hold of my psychology and start dictating to me what I ought to be doing in this life. No. All those problems that the genes used to be very, helpful for solving, I don't really need the genes anymore, because I'm not in imminent danger anymore. I have a very comfy, cushy life. It's great. But, some people lose perspective, don't they? Some people think the modern world in which they live is shit. I hear lots of people who, live in the West, and they live in what I just broadly call modern civilization, and they're complaining. They're complaining about the government, complaining about the politicians, complaining about the healthcare, complaining about the benefits and the social care, complaining about the roads. Always complaining. Where's the gratitude, folks? Has the population lost perspective? Let me tell you something. Let me tell you a few things that I've observed over the last few weeks. I was eating some watermelon last week. Now, for those of you who follow the show, you know that I really enjoy my watermelon. One of the great pleasures in this life. You slice a watermelon in half. You take one half and put it in the fridge. You take the other half, you get your spoon, and you get stuck in. It's great stuff. Now look, when you eat a watermelon that way, spoon in hand, and you've got half the watermelon, of course there's only one way to eat a watermelon, and you have to start from the outside and work your way in towards the heart of the melon. Obviously. Who the fuck goes for the heart first? No. You need to build up the anticipation. It's like a movie, folks. You don't just get straight to the heart of the movie in the first 10 minutes, no. You need to build your way up to it. So you start on the outside of your watermelon half, and you work your way towards the nice, succulent, juicy, sweet heart. That's what we're after. Now, of course, when you do this, what happens? Well, as you make your way towards the center, you are basically, chomping your way around the watermelon. And as you do this, you end up with a big tower of sweetheart watermelon in the center, and you've got all of the sides eaten away, which obviously creates, this big vast sort of chasm, or this big vast space, this deep vast space around the heart of your melon. Now, in this deep space, the juice of the watermelon falls in there. And so you've got this build-up. It's like a little sort of lake around your castle, we could say. You've got this, it's like a little moat, I suppose, we could call it. So you've got all of this watermelon juice falling in and around, down the sides. What happens, of course? Well, you get some ambitious flies. The flies like watermelon too. And one of these flies landed on my watermelon. And I saw him there and I thought, what are you doing there? This is my watermelon. Get off my heart of watermelon. And then a few seconds later, he's drowning in the watermelon juice down the sides. I lift him out, put him on a stone, and he dies. Cause of death. Drowned in the Bandido's watermelon juice. What a way to end your life, folks, huh? You see, he was following his genes. He saw a nice red, I don't know if... Can flies see colours? Who the fuck knows? He saw some watermelon. He got some cues that this is sweet, and I want to eat some of this. He lands on the surface of the watermelon, he falls into the juice, and he drowns. Dipshit fly. I look at this fly as he's drying out on the stone, and he dies. And I think, thank fuck I'm not a fly. That's what I thought. Then what happened a few days later? I'm out the back, and I'm doing some exercise. Doing some exercise out in the backyard. And I have this little pot out in the backyard with nothing in it. And I go look into the pot, and there's an ant in there. And he's just walking around in circles at the bottom of this pot. Nobody else in there. He's just on his own walking around in circles. I go do more exercise. I come back to the pot, and he's still there, walking around in circles. I finish up my exercises. And I come back to the pot. And I see this ant is now wrestling with some sort of a flying insect. And the flying insect seems to get the better of the ant and whizzes away off with him in his clutches. That's the end of that ant. Once again, I thought, thank fuck I'm not an ant. A few weeks ago, I'm once again out in the backyard, and I see this slug. It was during this really, intense spell of warm weather. It's coming up to sort of mid-morning, early afternoon, and I see this slug sort of sliming its way across the pavement. He looks like he's struggling. I go inside, pass no remarks. I come back out an hour later. Maybe it was 2 hours later. And he's like a crusty loaf of bread. He's been totally dried out by the sun. Once again I thought, thank fuck I'm not a slug. Then it gets better, folks. The cherry on top. A few days ago, I look out the front window and I see my cat outside. And my cat looks very animated. It looks like it has caught something. So I go out to the front door and my cat comes running over to me and it has something in its mouth. And it's going making all these funny noises. And I think, oh dear, it looks like my cat has caught something. What has it caught? It's actually caught a small bird. And it's torturing the bird. So it'll let the bird sit down. And the bird will try to fly away. And the cat will pounce on it and bring it back into its clutches again. It gets to the point where the bird is so exhausted that it's literally lying on the broad of its back with its 2 little chicken bird legs up in the air. It's panting like fuck. 20 seconds later, I start to hear all this crunching. My cat is eating the bird alive. 30 seconds later, the bird is gone. And I once again thought to myself, thank fuck I'm not a bird. Here's the thing, folks. When you pay attention to the world around you, to the animals around you, to the creatures around you, it's only then can you actually put your own life into perspective. I look at this fly that drowns in my watermelon juice. I look at this ant that is doing fucking circles inside this pot for no reason, it would seem, until it gets captured by some whizzing insect. Takes it away. I see this slug moving extremely slowly, and it dries out, and it's a crusty loaf of bread in an hour's time. And then this bird gets eaten alive, tortured, and then eaten alive by my cat. Folks, when you pay attention to the natural world, and you actually do a little bit of due diligence on your own natural history as a human, you start to look at the modern world with a bit more gratitude and appreciation. And this is what I mean when I go back to the start of the show. One of the things that I love most about being human is that I get to wake up every day and choose my attitude. How great is this, folks? I can override my genetic impulses to do certain things. My genes want me to do certain things. My genes want me to go and bang some chick and have a bunch of offspring. I don't want to do that. No, sir. I don't want the law getting involved in my life. I don't want some fucking batshit crazy chick getting involved in my life. All because my genes want me to stick my schlong into her. No. Not doing that. The genes aren't going to win on that one. So no, I refuse to listen to my genes when it comes to their reproductive ambitions for life that they have for me. What about food? Well, I don't need to worry about food. I'm surrounded by fucking food. There's food everywhere. Don't need to worry about that. What about predators? About the most I have to worry about, folks, is the odd horseshoe fly. Clag, we call them here in Ireland. Is that what you call it, a horseshoe fly, or whatever the fuck you call it? The odd fly here and there that might nibble on the Bandido. You know, maybe an old stray dog, but you know, I've got my contingency plan for the stray dogs. Don't worry about that. You know, I'm not really at risk from predation, am I? Don't need to worry about that. Shelter? Is there gonna be, you know, is Hurricane Patsy gonna be coming my way anytime soon? No. Don't have to worry about extreme weather where I'm living. I've got a perfectly suitable house for me to live in. Has all the things that I need. You know, I don't need to follow my genes anymore. This is the beauty of the modern age in which I live. And I get to choose my attitude. I get to choose my perspective, my outlook on life. I get to mould and shape my own life in the way that I want to mould and shape it. It's great. And whenever you have a wee bit of appreciation for the circumstances that you find yourself in modern civilization, well, holy fuck. All of a sudden, all these other things that you hear, yeah, are they mild inconveniences? Perhaps they are. Would it be better if the world, you know, were to function in a slightly more optimal way? Perhaps. But it's pretty damn good. And so I wake up every day, folks, and I have the attitude of, you know what? I've been gifted a marvellous opportunity that the fly that drowned in my watermelon juice, the ant that got taken away by some other flying insect, the fucking dried out slug, and the bird that was eaten alive by my cat didn't have. All those 4 examples, the creatures in question, the slug, the ant, the fly, and the bird, they do not have access to the opportunities that I have access to in this life. They are running on genetic autopilot. The genes are running the show. They just get up each day. The ant gets up each day, the fly gets up each day, the fucking slug gets up each day, and the bird gets up each day, and on to genetic autopilot. Need to find some food, need to bang some other member of my species, have a little snooze, get back up, rinse and repeat. It's just, is there any conscious input whatsoever? Is there? I question if there is. It looks like a bunch of automated fucking behaviour to me. Being completely and utterly dictated by the genes and their wishes and demands. I don't give a fuck what my genes want me to do. I have a great opportunity that my conscious mind allows me to take advantage of. My conscious mind allows me to choose my attitude that I want to approach this life with. That attitude, you know, if I wanted to, I could approach life like a miserable fuck. So unfair. Life's so difficult. I should be entitled to more benefits. Mental health. You know, I could wake up and go on like that sort of fucking, like a retard like that. Or I could get up and say, you know what? I've been given a marvellous opportunity that no other creature on this planet has access to. No other creature on this planet has the opportunities that I have as a human. And all you have to do to realise this is just fucking open your eyes and look around. Look at the way all of these other creatures live. It's automated, automatic, autopilot behaviour. Their genes are just dictating the terms on which they are going to live their lives. And they just get up each day and off they go. The genetic code just running riot. We don't have to listen to our genes. Now look, the genes, as I've said, can be very useful. You have your instincts for a reason. If I see a snarling dog running towards me, my genes kick in and say, Mr. Bandido, this looks like trouble. You better get prepared to either run or defend yourself. Great. Look, I'm not saying that the genes are a net negative, not at all. But what you need to realise, folks, is you don't have to subject yourself to their automated protocol. You've got a consciousness. You've got a conscious mind that allows you to adopt an attitude that can be superbly advantageous to you in this life. And that attitude, that approach to life that you take, may not be in the best interests of your genes, but it may be in the best interests of your life satisfaction and happiness. The two are not the same thing. Remember, your genes, they want you to survive and reproduce your DNA. That's what the genes want. They don't care how the fuck you do it. The genes just want you to survive and reproduce. Get those genes into the next generation. That's all the genes want. But those sets of goals and ambitions that your genes have can definitely come into conflict with another set of goals and ambitions that we can have with regards to our own life satisfaction and happiness. The two can butt heads at times. I like being a free man. I like the fact that I don't have to live with a chick. I like the fact that I don't have to worry about fucking children. I like the fact that I don't have to worry about the law getting involved in my relationships because I've gotten married. I like the fact that I maintain superb control over all of the controllables in my existence. I love this. I don't want the genes getting in the road. I don't want the genes, telling me to eat a whole bunch of high-calorie junk food because it gives me a little dopamine release in my brain and causes some short-term pleasure throughout the nervous system. No, that's the genes leading me into a trap. The genes want me. The genes want me to consume the highest calorie foods in the environment. But I know, using my conscious mind, I know that the high calorie foods in the environment that we currently live in are junk food. They represent junk food. I know it's not in my best interests. So I don't want my genes, which are fucking hardwired to pursue the highest calorie food in the environment so that I don't starve to death, I don't want my genes to be dictating to me to engage in that sort of behaviour when I live in the modern environment and I don't need to worry about starvation. I don't want the genes telling me that I need to go and have a bunch of children with some chick. The genes don't understand that we have this thing called law now. It's all well and good back in the day when you're in your tribe of 30 or 40 people. You can bang some chick, have a child, and then you can just let the other women deal with it. You're not legally binded in the way that you are nowadays. If you have a kid with some chick, the law gets involved. And you have to put up with all this shit from the woman, who, by the way, incidentally, has far more rights than you when it comes to the child and anything else in the relationship if you decide to make it legally binding through marriage. I don't want my genes to be dictating to me in that way. I don't want my genes, because here's another thing that the genes would be telling me to do. Social pressure, cultural norms. The genes want me to abide by the cultural norms, to do the thing that society expects of me. Is that in my best interests? Is that in the interests of my life satisfaction and my happiness to basically just follow the sheep? Yeah, my genes are engineered in a way that they want me to be always accepted by the group. My genes are engineered in a way that I need to be always seeking the approval of the group. Well, that's all well and good when you live fucking 50,000 years ago and your group of 30 or 40 tribe members is your only insurance policy and protection against the wilderness. Yeah, that's all well and good. I don't live in a tribe anymore, out in the sticks and the bush. I don't need the approval of fucking hundreds of millions of people. I don't need the approval of my town and city. I don't need to please everybody in my town and city. I don't need to just do what they do. COVID's the perfect example. Fuck me. Socially distance, put your mask on, inject yourself. No, that's not in my best interests. That's limiting my life's satisfaction doing all that dumb shit. But the genes would have me believe that no, I need to seek the social approval of my peers. No, I need to make sure that I'm being included in the group. I don't want to get kicked out of the group, because if you get kicked out of the group in an ancestral environment, you're now an isolated human. And when you're an isolated human, you're dead. No, that's the genes trying to dictate to me what I ought to be doing in modern day 2026. When the genes were constructed hundreds of thousands of years ago. My psychology was constructed hundreds of thousands of years ago. I don't live in an environment that's similar to 100,000 years ago. I live in the modern environment. Why am I saying all this? Well, folks, I don't want my life to be dictated to me by my genetic code. I don't need to run on its automation anymore. Because the environment has changed. And I now, as a modern day human, don't need to worry about all the things that were happening back in my ancestral environment. I'm all good. Nothing to worry about. And so, all of a sudden, you shift your perspective once you realize this. And you then realize, well, if my goal in this life is not that of the genetic codes, then what is it? And then you realize, well, if I'm not looking to satisfy my genetic code, then what I should be doing is just trying to maximize the satisfaction that I can extract from life and make sure that I live a life with no regrets and plenty of worthwhile interactions with people that I really want to interact with and doing worthwhile things that interest me. That's all I want to do. Really. In other words, I just want to live a very satisfying existence, a very happy existence, one that makes me feel good. And here's the thing, folks. Is this a ridiculously unrealistic thing to aspire towards? Is it very improbable that I'm going to pull this off? No! That's the whole point of what I'm saying. You have 100% control over your attitude in this life. I go back to the start of the show. You get to wake up every day, hopefully in good health, and you get to decide what attitude you want to approach life with. It's a 100% controllable, and it's completely independent of what your genes want to do. You can decide, I am going to grab life by the scruff of the neck, and I'm going to do all the things that I truly want to do in this life within the short time frame that I have to live. Life could end at any moment. Who knows? Disasters happen all the time, unforeseen things happen all the time. I just need to maximize what it is that I'm doing in this life and make sure that I'm doing what I want to do, not what my genes want to do. Not what my genes want to do. No. The genes are going to end up getting me into trouble in the modern environment. In an ancestral environment, totally different story. In the modern environment, my genes will end up getting me into trouble. It'll have me fat, overweight, feeling like a slob, because I'll be pursuing high-calorie junk food, because that's what the genes want me to do. It'll have me getting into relationships with people because, I need to reproduce and make sure I get my own little minions churned out into the world. Once I do that, I now get the law involved. I'm now legally binded to these fucking blobs of jelly until 18 years of age. If I listen to my genes, I'm going to be, bending the knee to what society wants me to do. I'm going to be following the masses like a sheep. Are all those things in my best interests, folks? I don't think so. And I have the marvelous opportunity to wake up every day, and so do you. You get to wake up every day, just like me, and you get to decide, how am I going to approach life? What's my attitude going to be? And once you realize this, and you have a bit of appreciation of where you've come from and what all other creatures in this world don't have access to that you do have access to, all of a sudden, a whole world of opportunities with your fantastic attitude and giving your absolute best start to open up. The universe is very giving, folks. There's opportunities all around us. You just need to open your eyes, adjust your attitude, and absorb all of life's wonders, independent of what your little genes want to do.